Hey, imagine this for a second. What if your peace of mind, your happiness, didn't rely on whether someone texted you back or missed you when you weren't around? What if longing glances, ignored calls, or even those thinking of you messages no longer controlled your emotional state? Now, that might sound like some kind of fantasy world, but it's actually something real, something you can live starting today. And the path that takes you there? It's called Stoicism. Yeah, Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that's been around for thousands of years. It's not just some dusty idea from a history book. It's a tool, a way of living, one that teaches us to build inner peace and resilience, no matter what's happening outside of us. Now I know you might be wondering, cool, but what does that have to do with wanting someone to miss me? Great question. See, when it comes to love and relationships, most of us crave attention, right? We want to be wanted, to be needed, to be missed. And society kind of trains us to believe that if someone's thinking about us, if they're texting us, calling us, needing us, then that's proof we matter. That's the formula for happiness. But Stoicism flips that whole idea on its head. Instead of chasing external validation, someone else's feelings, someone else's approval, Stoicism says, focus inward, improve yourself, build emotional independence. And weirdly enough, when you do that, you actually become more attractive. You become magnetic. And yes, more likely to be missed. But not because you're playing mind games or trying to make someone chase you. It's because you're living with purpose. You're centered. You're fulfilled. And that kind of self-sufficiency, it draws people in. So in this video, we're going deep into what the Stoics can teach us about relationships, independence, and yes, even about how to make someone miss you without ever trying to manipulate the outcome. And hey, before we jump all the way in, if this kind of message resonates with you, if you find power in these ancient ideas that still apply to modern love and life, take a second and hit that subscribe button. It might seem small, but it really helps us keep these conversations going. Alright, let's get into it. Happiness that doesn't depend on anyone else. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need something or someone outside of ourselves to be happy. But the Stoics? They saw it differently. They believed that happiness comes from within, from mastering your own mind, your own emotions, from focusing on the things you can control, like your thoughts, your reactions, and letting go of the things you can't, like how someone else feels about you, or whether they reach out, or miss you. It's not about becoming numb or emotionally detached. That's a big misunderstanding. It's about becoming resilient. Because let's be real, how many times have you let a missed text or a silent treatment mess with your head? How often has your entire mood shifted just because someone didn't respond the way you wanted them to? We've all been there. But that's the emotional roller coaster Stoicism helps you get off of. It gives you tools to stand steady, to not be thrown around by every little thing that happens in your relationships or your life. And when you have that kind of inner stability, that's when people really notice. That's when they start to feel your absence. Because they're drawn to your energy, not your neediness. Stoic love, not detached, but free. Now let me be clear, Stoicism doesn't say we shouldn't love people, or that we shouldn't care. It's not about turning into a robot. It's about loving freely without turning love into dependency. It's about building relationships based on mutual respect, not emotional neediness. You're not clinging to someone out of fear of being alone. You're choosing to be with them because of connection, not because of emotional survival. And here's the twist. The more secure and fulfilled you are on your own, the more attractive you become. People are naturally drawn to those who are passionate about their own lives, who have hobbies, goals. When you stop obsessing over whether someone misses you, and you start fully living your own life, they do miss you. But not because you forced it. It's because you showed them what it looks like to live fully. That's the irony. The less you chase being missed, the more likely it is to happen. So, where do you start? Here's the thing. It all begins with self-awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts, your emotional triggers. Notice what throws you off balance. Then ask yourself, is this something I can control? Or am I trying to force something that isn't up to me? Start focusing on your growth. Learn something new. Exercise. Explore. Figure out what you stand for, what you love, what kind of person you want to become. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. And that journey, that inward journey, that's what makes you magnetic. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being someone who's worth missing. The Stoic formula: control what you can, accept what you can't. At the heart of Stoicism is this one truth: you don't control what happens to you, but you do control how you respond. You control your perspective, your decisions, your energy. That means you don't need to wait for someone else to choose you in order to feel whole. You don't need someone to validate your worth. You already have everything you need to build a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. And when that becomes your truth, you stop chasing, you stop needing. And ironically, that's when people start seeing you differently. Because the person who's okay on their own, that's rare. That's powerful. That's unforgettable. All right, now that we've laid the foundation of emotional independence, let's go deeper. Because building this kind of strength, this inner calm, doesn't happen by accident. It's a practice, a mindset, a commitment. And this part of the journey? It's all about emotional resilience. So let's start with a simple truth. Most people don't live in peace, they live in reaction. Someone disrespects them? Their whole day's ruined. One mean comment? They carry it for a week. A breakup, a ghosting, even just a short reply to a long text. And suddenly, it feels like their whole self-worth is on the line. But here's what the Stoics knew: you are not your emotions. You experience emotions, yes. You feel pain, anger, sadness. That's human. But those emotions don't have to own you. They don't get to drive the car. They're just passengers. And once you realize that, you gain back your power. Feel everything, let go of the drama. Stoicism doesn't tell you to suppress your feelings. It's not about bottling things up or pretending everything's fine when it's not. No, Stoicism says, feel it but don't be ruled by it. You're allowed to be disappointed, frustrated, but you don't have to let those emotions define your actions. You don't have to spiral into overthinking or self-blame just because someone didn't see your worth. You learn to say, that happened. It stings. But it doesn't shake my core. Because your core, your self-worth, your peace, doesn't depend on what other people do. Your emotions are clues, not commands. Here's a powerful shift. Treat your emotions like signals, not orders. Let's say you feel jealous, or hurt, or rejected. Instead of reacting automatically, pause. Ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Maybe it's showing you where you still have wounds. Maybe it's pointing out where you've been giving away too much of your power. Maybe it's reminding you to slow down and care for yourself. The Stoics believed in using reason, logos, to guide the emotional experience. You don't ignore your emotions. You observe them. You learn from them. And then, you choose your response deliberately. Relationships without chains. Let's talk relationships for a moment. We all want love, connection, intimacy. But when we tie our entire emotional state to another person's behavior, when our joy rises and falls depending on how often they text or how much they affirm us, we're living on a cliff edge. It's not love, it's dependency. And Stoicism offers us a way out. Not by cutting ourselves off, but by grounding ourselves before we attach. When you're rooted in who you are, when your life already has purpose, direction, joy, then relationships become an addition, not a necessity. You love more freely because you're not afraid of being alone. You're already whole. And someone who's already whole, they don't love with desperation. They love with presence. Adaptability, the Stoic superpower. Life changes. People change. Sometimes they stay. Sometimes they leave. And most of the time, we have zero control over any of that. But we do have control over how we show up. Stoicism teaches us to align with the flow of nature, to embrace the truth that everything is temporary and that change is inevitable. This is powerful because it means we're no longer fighting reality. We're moving with it. That breakup? That friendship that faded? That crush who never saw your worth? You don't resist it. You don't dwell. You adapt. And adaptability isn't weakness, it's mastery. It means you can keep showing up no matter what happens. You can rebuild. You can evolve. You can thrive even after loss. Your lighthouse in the storm. Here's a metaphor the Stoics would have loved. Imagine you're standing on a rocky coastline. Waves crash. Wind howls. The storm is chaos. But in the middle of all that, a lighthouse. It doesn't panic. It doesn't chase after ships. It doesn't scream for attention. It just stands there, lit from within, guiding others without needing anything in return. That's what Stoicism builds in you. When you live by these principles, you become your own lighthouse. People may come, people may go, but your light stays on. That's emotional resilience. How to build emotional resilience step by step. So, let's make this practical. Because theory is great, but we need tools. Here are a few daily practices inspired by Stoicism that you can start using today. 1. Daily reflection. Ask yourself, what emotions did I feel today and why? Don't judge. Just notice. 2. The dichotomy of control. At any point in your day, when something upsets you, pause and ask, is this within my control? If not, let it go. 3. Negative visualization. This sounds weird at first, but it works. Spend a minute imagining losing something you take for granted. A friend, your health, your job. Not to scare yourself, but to train your mind to appreciate what you have and be prepared for change. 4. Morning anchoring. Start each day with a Stoic phrase like, I will face whatever comes today with patience and strength. It grounds you before the world can shake you. 5. Evening journaling. Write down what tested your emotions. How did you respond? How could you improve tomorrow? These aren't just tasks. They're training for your mind. And over time, you'll start to notice things that used to wreck your mood don't even move you anymore. Connection without clinging. We've all heard the saying, if you love something, let it go. But Stoicism adds a twist. If you love something, love it deeply, fully, but know that you can survive without it. That doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're free. Freedom doesn't mean having no feelings. It means your feelings aren't your prison guards. And that's the space where real love can grow. Love that's not based on control, or fear, or emotional bargaining, but on respect. Alignment. Alright, welcome back. So far, we've explored how Stoicism teaches us emotional independence, and how to build resilience that doesn't crumble under life's pressure or someone else's silence. But now we reach something even deeper. Something that goes beyond managing emotions or relationships. We're talking about meaning. Because what's the point of all this? What are we really after when we chase love, approval, success? Most of us are chasing significance, a sense that our life matters. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Chasing that through things we can't control, like other people, money, fame, or validation, will always leave us empty. The Stoics knew this. That's why they taught that a meaningful life isn't found out there. It's found in how you live. Every day, every choice. Meaning isn't found, it's made. The Stoics believed that we don't find meaning like we find a lost wallet. We create it. Not through big accomplishments or dramatic moments, but through the small things. Done with purpose, done with virtue. Helping a stranger. Doing your job with integrity. Showing kindness when it's not deserved. Saying no to something that doesn't align with your values. These aren't flashy, but they matter because they're in your control. And meaning, according to Stoicism, comes from living in alignment with nature, with your nature. With who you truly are beneath all the noise. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully when he said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The tyranny of control, and how to break free. One of the greatest sources of suffering? Our obsession with control. Trying to control how people treat us. How life unfolds. How we're perceived. How it all turns out. But if you really zoom out, most of it is just not up to us. We can put in the work. We can do our best. But outcomes? Reactions? Timing? Completely out of our hands. This is where most people burn out. Get anxious. Stay stuck. But Stoicism sets you free, not by making you give up, but by teaching you where your true power lives. in your response, your perception, your choices. Let go of what you can't control, not because it doesn't matter, but because clinging to it only creates suffering. Instead, double down on the only domain you actually own, yourself, living with the flow of nature. Now, when Stoics talk about living in accordance with nature, they're not just talking about forests and rivers. They're talking about reality, about accepting the nature of life as it is, constantly changing, unpredictable, full of beauty and loss. You can either fight that reality and exhaust yourself, or align with it and grow stronger. It's like sailing. You don't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. When you stop resisting every little shift in life, when you stop needing everything to go your way, you find something incredible. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop panicking, you stop obsessing, and you start living, turning pain into power. Here's a powerful Stoic idea. What if your setbacks weren't mistakes, but material? What if everything difficult in your life, every heartbreak, every rejection, every disappointment, was fuel for becoming stronger, wiser, more grounded? That's what the Stoics did. They didn't ask, "Why me?" They asked, "How can I use this?" Pain isn't proof that something's wrong. Sometimes it's proof that you're alive, that you're growing, that you're not stuck in numbness or denial. So don't waste your pain. Don't drown in it. Shape it. Let it refine you. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties are things that show a person who they are." And sometimes, you won't even know your strength until life forces you to use it. Daily acts, deep meaning. We tend to overcomplicate what a meaningful life looks like. We think it has to be something huge, a best-selling book, a perfect family, a dream career. But Stoicism simplifies it. A meaningful life is made in the daily moments. Choosing honesty when lying would be easier. Holding your tongue when you're tempted to lash out. Forgiving even when your ego wants revenge. Pursuing something difficult because it's worth it. Meaning doesn't require a stage. It requires intention. And when you live like this, when your actions match your values, you sleep better. You breathe deeper. You stop feeling like a fraud. You become solid. Grounded. You are not alone on this path. Sometimes, the Stoic path can feel lonely, especially in a world obsessed with noise, comparison, and attention. But you're not alone. This isn't just your journey. It's one walked by countless others before you. By ancient thinkers like Seneca. By modern minds searching for clarity. By people just like you who want to live on their own terms. When you live with courage and presence, when you hold yourself to higher standards, not because you're better than others, but because you respect yourself, you become a quiet force in the world. You stop needing applause. You stop chasing validation. And people feel that. They're drawn to that. Because it's rare. Letting go to take back your power. So here's the paradox. When you stop needing control, you actually become more powerful. When you stop needing someone to miss you, they often start missing you more. When you stop craving approval, people start giving it freely. Because you're no longer trying to extract value from the world. You're bringing value to it. That's what Stoicism helps you do. And that's why this philosophy still matters today, not as a theory, but as a guide for living with purpose, peace, and power. Final thoughts. This is a way of life. Let's wrap this up by coming back to where we started. Imagine living a life where your happiness doesn't depend on someone texting you back. Where you're calm in the middle of chaos. Where you wake up grounded and go to sleep at peace, because you know you've lived in alignment with who you truly are. That life is possible, but it doesn't come from hacks, tricks, or strategies. It comes from becoming. Becoming someone who no longer needs the world to behave a certain way in order to be at peace. Becoming someone who loves freely without clinging. Who lets go of control without giving up. Who suffers without losing themselves. And most of all, someone who lives with intention. Not for applause, not for drama, but because they know what really matters. If you're still here, thank you, seriously, for walking this journey with me today. If you found value in this, I'd love for you to stick around. Subscribe, drop a comment, share your thoughts. We're building a space here, a place where ancient wisdom meets real, modern life. And as always, I'll leave you with this. The most important journey you'll ever take is the one inward. Stay strong, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next one.